everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be discussing multiplying and dividing fractions. The standard is 7.NS.82, which is apply and extend previous understanding of multiplication and division of fractions to divide rational numbers. This will be a two-part series. We'll start today with just multiplying and dividing fractions, and then tomorrow we'll be doing rational numbers. So our steps for multiplying and dividing fractions. So here, this is just for multiplying. Step 1, multiply the numerators. Step 2, multiply the denominators. Step 3, simplify the fraction if necessary. Let's go ahead and take a look at our example. 3 times 1 is 3. 5 times 2 is 10. So I just went ahead and multiplied my numerators and my denominators. Now 3 over 10 cannot be simplified any further. There's no number that goes evenly into 3 and 10. So this would be my final answer of 3 over 10. Now for dividing fractions, it's one more step outside of just multiplying our fractions. So the first thing you want to do is to keep, change, flip. So if I have 1/3 divided by 5 over 6, then I want to first keep my first fraction, change the division sign to multiplication, flip the second fraction to its reciprocal. And when we think about reciprocal, it's literally just taking what's on the bottom and putting it on top, and what's on top and putting on the bottom. So I am moving their places. So 5 over 6 will become 6 over 5. So if I say find the reciprocal of 1/2, that will become 2 over 1 because they're flipping their location. So that's the idea behind reciprocal. Let's do one more example. If I have 7 over 12 and I ask you to find the reciprocal of 7 over 12, that would become 12 over 7. Now let's take a look at an example. So 2 over 8 divided by 3/4. So my rule says to keep, change, flip. So we can call that KCF. No, not KFC like the chicken, but KCF. So I'm going to keep my first term, which is 2 over 8. I'm going to change my division sign to multiplication. And then I'm going to flip or find the reciprocal of my second fraction, which is 3 over 4. So the reciprocal of that will be 4 over 3. Now, once you've done that, you continue by using the rules for multiplication. What are the rules for multiplication, you ask? We talked about it previously. We multiply our numerators, multiply our denominators, and then we simplify if necessary. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 times 3 is 24. Now, when you take a look at this, you want to ask yourself, can I simplify this fraction any further? And yes, we can. There are numbers that go evenly into 8 and 24. Now, the greatest common number that they both have would be 8. So 8 can go evenly into itself, and it can also go evenly into 24. So to simplify, we're going to divide the top and the bottom by the same number. So I'm going to divide the top by 8 and the bottom by 8. So 8 divided by 8 is equal to 1. 24 divided by 8 is equal to 3. So my simplified fraction is 1/3. Okay, so just a quick recap: keep, change, flip, multiply, just like we would multiply fractions, numerator with the numerator, denominator with the denominator. And then we want to see what the greatest common factor is for our numerator and our denominator, divide that out, and get our simplified fraction. A bottle of water is half full. So I'm going to use my cube strategy here. Whenever I have my word problems, I like to use my cube strategy. A bottle of water is half full. You drink 2/3 of the water. How much water did you drink? So here, this is a multiplication problem. So you have 1/2 of the water, and you are going to drink 2/3 of that. Okay. So here the rule is the same. Multiply numerator with the numerator. 1 times 2 is 2. Denominator with the denominator. 2 times 3 is 6. So here I have 2 over 6, which can be simplified further. So now I have to ask myself, what is the greatest number that can go evenly into 2 and 6? That happens to be 2, so I'm going to divide the top by 2 and the bottom by 2, which gives me 1/3 again. So how much of the bottle of water did you drink? You drank 1/3. All right, so let's take a look at our next example. An art teacher had 2/3 gallon of paint to pour into containers. If he poured 1/8 gallon of paint into each container until he ran out of paint, how many containers had paint in them, including the one that was partially filled? So I'm going to use my cube strategy. Again, I love that thing. I'm going to circle my numbers. Okay. Underline my question. How many containers had paint in them, including the one that was partially filled? Okay. Now he is going to, the art teacher is going to pour into containers. This is really important. This is a key phrase. The mere fact that he's pouring it into the smaller containers tells me that he's dividing. Okay. So here I'm going to take 2/3 and I'm going to divide that by 1/8. I'm going to apply my strategy of keep, change, flip. So I'm going to keep my first, change my sign to multiplication, and then flip my second fraction. Now I'm going to continue with the rules for multiplication. 2 times 8 is 16. 3 times 1 is 3. Now I can simplify this further. So here I have an improper fraction. And we know that fraction bar denotes division. So I'm going to actually set up a division problem and go ahead and simplify that. So the number on top goes inside the house. The number on the bottom goes on the outside. 3 cannot go into 1. However, 3 can go into 16. 3 goes into 16 5 times with a remainder of 1. So here I can do 5 full containers, and then 1 container is just going to have a little bit left in it. So how many containers had paint in them, including the one that was partially filled? The answer would be 6 containers. Okay. If it did not want us to include the one that was partially filled, then we would say 5, right? Because we have 5 full containers. Now let's take a look at some mixed numbers. So with our mixed numbers, the process is still the same. The only difference is that before I start to multiply or divide, I want to convert those mixed numbers to improper fractions. And the way we do that is to take our denominator, multiply it by the whole number, and then add the numerator. So if we take a look at this example here, I'm going to go 3 times 6, and then I'm going to add 2. So 3 times 6 is 18. 18 plus 2 is 20. And then I'm going to write that number over my original denominator, which happens to be 3. Okay. Now here, there are 2 strategies that you could use. You could continue to multiply just like we did and then simplify, right? So we can say 20 times 3 is equal to 60. And then 3 times 10 is equal to 30. And then we can simplify that further. So 60 divided by 30 is equal to 2. Another method that you could use is to actually go ahead and simplify first and then multiply. Now, I'm going to show you this, but if it's going to confuse you, I would say to disregard it and just go ahead with our initial approach of multiplying numerator by numerator and then simplifying at the end. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite our fraction. So 20 over 3 times 3 over 10. Okay, so this works with multiplication. So here I see that 10 goes evenly into 20. Okay, so I can say 10 goes into itself once, 10 goes into 20 twice. 3 goes into itself once, 3 goes into 3 once. Now I can go ahead and multiply. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 over 1 is just 2. So if you notice, I use two different approaches, but my answer is exactly the same. Again, this method is not for everyone, but if it's something that you think could work for you, it would be really helpful because then you'd avoid getting those big numbers at the end because you're simplifying a little earlier on. Now, why don't you take a moment and try the next example on your own, and then I'm going to do the same. Okay, so remember that we want to multiply. So the denominator times the whole number, 10 times 1. And then we want to add the numerator. So 10 plus 3, which is 13, over 10 times 18 over 1. So anytime you have a whole number that does not have a denominator, we can write that as a fraction by using a denominator of 1. Now, here's an example of where simplifying first would be really helpful, right? So I have 13 times 8. Maybe I don't know how to do that, okay? Let's try simplifying, and then we will do the multiplication across. So 10 does not go evenly into 18. However, there is a number that does, and that number happens to be 2. So 2 into 10, 5 times. 2 into 18, 9 times. So now instead of multiplying 13 by 18, I'm going to multiply 13 by 9. So I'm going to just do that over here. 9 times 3 is 27. 9 ones 9 plus 2 is 11. Okay, so now I have 117 on top, and then 5 times 1 on the bottom is just 5. Now I can go ahead and divide to simplify this further. So the number on top goes inside, the number on the bottom goes out. 5 does not go into 1, but it does go into 11 2 times. 5 times 2 is 10. With a remainder of 1, bring down the 7. 5 into 17 is 3 times. 3 5s, 15. With a remainder of 2. So simplified, this is 23. And I'm going to write my remainder over my 5. So my final answer is 23 and 2/5. Okay. Now remember this number. I'm going to go ahead and clear the screen, and I'm going to do it without actually simplifying first, which is a method that most people may prefer. Okay, so we said that was 23 and 2/5. Okay, so that's the number we're working with. So again, we have 1 times 10 is 10. I'm going to change my color. Plus 3 is 13 over 10 times 18 over 1. So my numerator, I have 18 times 13. 3 times 8 is 24. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2 is 5. Put in my placeholder. 1 times 8 is 8. 1 times 1 is itself. Add that. That gives me 4. 13. So 234. Divided by 10. Okay. Now let's go ahead and divide that so we see what it looks like as a fraction. So 234 goes inside the house. You know what? Let me change color so that my work does not look blended. So 234 is going to go inside the house, and 10 is going to go on the outside. 10 does not go evenly into 2, but it does go evenly into 23 2 times with a remainder of 3. 10 goes into 34 3 times with a remainder of 4. So here we have 23 and 4/10. And we know that 4/10 can be simplified further, right? So the number that would go evenly into both of these would be 2. I'm not dividing my 23. My 23 is a whole number. I'm just simplifying that fraction. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Okay? So now I'm going to bring down my 23 for a final answer of 23 and 2/5. And as you see, those Both of those answers matched the one we did previously by simplifying first and then multiplying, and then the one that we did last, which was to multiply and then simplify. Thank you for watching and have a great day.